We start with this now. A fundamental change is happening to the functioning of democracy in South Africa. For the first time next year, South Africans will be able to vote for independent candidates in provincial and national elections. But the devil is in the detail, as they say. How will it all work? To discuss, we're joined by IEC Deputy Chief Electoral Officer for Electoral Matters. That's Masego Sheburi. Thank you for being with us, Mr. Sheburi. Apparently, the IEC, you are proposing that people who are voting outside of their province or from overseas will not be able to vote for independence. Is that correct, and why?
Francis, let's give a brief background so that we can give context to the amendments. The scheme of our law since the democratic breakthrough has always been that a voter registers and votes in a voting district in which they are ordinarily resident. In national and provincial elections, the participation of voters is linked to a province in which they are ordinarily resident and therefore registered. So, a voter who casts their ballot outside of that province will unfortunately not be able to vote in a provincial legislature election. In the context of independence, independents will contest national and provincial elections for the first time next year. They will do so on two ballots. The first ballot will be on the regional ballot for seats in the National Assembly. The second election that independents will contest will be for seats in a provincial legislature. As it stands, a voter who votes outside of their province loses their ability to vote in their provincial legislature elections. Similarly, they don't receive the regional ballot for their region. This is true in respect of independents as well as for political parties who appear on the regional ballot and who appear in the legislature. So it is not entirely correct that the amendments only affect independent candidates. They are true for independent as they are true for candidates who appear on the lists of political parties.
All right, let me try and get my head around this and explain it properly. Now, I understand for the national election, there will be two ballots instead of one. So the one is reflecting the proportional representation, and therefore you can vote for anybody on that ballot. The other reflecting the regional makeup of Parliament, the remaining 200 seats. So therefore you won't receive that second ballot now. Is that correct?
You have it spot on, Francis. And the rationale there is that because the country is a constituency for this election, everyone, even those who vote overseas, will be able to vote on the national PR ballot. However, to qualify for a regional ballot, you must cast your ballot in a voting district within that region or within the boundary of that region. And the rationale there is that you do not want persons who do not live in a region or in a province influencing outcomes of elections in provinces and regions that they do not reside in.
The argument has been, though, that the bar is already so high for independent candidates. They have to cover the costs. They have to get signatures of support just to start off with. They have to promote themselves. And now they can only sort of apply for half of the seats available. Is there not a way around this because they are already so hamstrung?
In the past, the national ballot, as you correctly point out, was contested on a single ballot, both for the national PR component as well as for the regional ballot. And in that instance, we were able to distribute, because the ballot was the same, we were able to distribute the ballot everywhere. But however, you counted it once for the regional elections and not you counted it once for the national elections and not for the region. Now the ballots are separated, so the impact will be true for parties as well as for independents. So if an independent is standing in Gauteng and I want to vote in Gauteng, but I find myself outside of the province on voting day, I will unavoidably be unable to vote for either a candidate, an independent, or even a political party if I was so inclined. So the impact is not only limited to independent candidates.
All right, so you're saying it's fair, it's square for parties and independents. What is your response, or what is the IEC's response to the whole argument of fairness? If I'm an independent candidate, say, and perchance I get 5 million votes, okay, highly unlikely, I'm an independent, but I get all those votes, I then can only get one seat. What is the IEC's argument to many NGOs, to many organizations that are still aggrieved that is the case?
The responsibility to pass laws rests with Parliament. IEC only administers laws that have been passed by Parliament. As we understand the Act as it currently stands, an independent means an individual. So if you get more votes than what qualifies you for a seat, you'll certainly get the seat, and unfortunately the other votes will not go towards any representation. However, because parties submit lists of candidates, they are able in that instance to aggregate seats because you can assign those seats to other members of that party, whereas an independent is only a single person. So if they win 3 seats, they can't hold 3 seats being a single person. So that is what we understand to be the rationale and what underpins the amendments in the Act.
All right, let's see if that fight continues, but that is where we stand with the law. Thank you for that explanation, IEC Deputy CEO of Electoral Operations, Masego Shiburi.